The Schöningen spear is one of the first spears that were actually thrown by Neanderthals 375 to 400,000 years ago. They were made from about a 6 foot to 8 foot section of spruce, shaped down into 2 tapered ends. Now if I was to break this 7 foot long blank down into thirds, front 1/3, middle 1/3, back 1/3, my front 1/3 is going to be heavier. It's going to be shaped down into a point, fire hardened. My back end will be tapered off, so the Schöningen spear is actually pointed on both ends, and it was thrown just like a javelin. Now how we know this actually existed was simply because 10 spears were found in an old salt mine in Germany. They were cracked and broken, but you can see how they fit back together. Now it's crazy because a lot of folks believe that Neanderthals never really threw spears. They used more thrusting spears. But the way the Schöningen spear is shaped is just like a javelin. Heavier end up front, tapered out end in the back, and you can really throw it. So to build the Schöningen spear, I'm going to use essentially the same tool set Neanderthals would have used 400,000 years ago. Some simple stone flakes, hammer stones, some light percussion, a little raw stone just in case I need some, and some hand pads. I do have a little fire going over my shoulder in the event that I need to straighten the actual spear, as well as fire dry the tip, shape it out, and get it into really that point that would have been used to hunt all sorts of game. This isn't my first Schöningen spear crafting, and I can tell you when you're working just with some raw flakes like this, it takes about 5 hours, maybe even 6 hours to remove all these knots, scrape it down, fire shape it if needed, and ultimately kind of tune it to the individual thrower. Really the hardest part in all this shaping is removing all of these little branches. Now the front end of the spear is key. That is ultimately fire hardened and fire dried and shaped to the point. No stone points were actually used. It was all fire dry wood points. Basically the spear itself was the point. So let's get to crafting one Schöningen spear. When I'm scraping this, I want to get to the wood. All this is kind of a cambium layer that I can peel pretty easily off. This will be my first kind of target removal. It should be easy once you've made a first couple initial scrapes to kind of get into that wood. That is debarked. I do need to address all these little branches. There's going to be a little bit more grinding with a little bit more focus because this guy is still heavy. It will dry out quick, but this is really when all these stone scrapers come into play. So of my front 1/3, from my left hand to my right hand, I want my throwing portion to be right where that kind of joining the first third to the second third is. So there's lots of scraping, lots of sawing on all these little nodes, and in that process it's going to be drying. It looks pretty straight. One slight bend right here, that'll be easy straighten over the fire. That's the one. See, it's got that little bit of a lip. I can grasp it, slide it up. Slowly starting to work this tip down. I'm looking to go about 6 inches for my tip. It's specifically going to be dried and fired, and then after that tip is where I'm really going to start that 1/3. So this spot right about here is where I'm looking to hold it and throw it. I'll just kind of wedge the tailing end in that tree. It's helped me do two things. One, it's giving me a little bit of platform to work with. Two, it's kind of shaping and kind of bending that tail end just a little bit. Now, as I've been working the tip down, I'm not going to bring it to a straight point because I'm going to put it in the fire, kind of burn more of that final tip into there. I want it dry. Not necessarily going to harden it out, but dry wood is dry wood. You can't really fire harden wood. It's wood. It's just going to burn. What you're doing is pulling all that moisture out and making it a little bit drier and therefore harder. When everything is said and done, you have one Schöningen spear. So that is my balance point right there. I've got my tip and then the back 2/3. So literally from here to there is the back, that tailing end. And then from here to here is my tip. Ah. So bottom line, Schöningen spear is an effective tool. You can get a much longer throw when you're in the open compared to a tree line. You're just kind of restricted by the branches. To generate the most force, you need a good start, a good kind of lead up, a good throw. You can wind up getting your spear on target. Inside the tree line, definitely more difficult. Out of a tree line, throwing into some sort of open terrain, probably where animals would be grazing, is the most likely. It affords cover. It affords you an opportunity to kind of hide yourself and mask yourself before taking that shot on an animal. For a 375,000 to 400,000 Neanderthal throwing spear, I find it to be very effective. It's smart ingenuity, more weight up front, tapering all the way out to the very end. Imagine 4 or 5, 6 folks throwing Schöningen spears at an intended target. You're bound to have some meat that night. Now, based on the 10 recovered Schöningen spears that they found in the salt mines, it's hard to say exactly how far they could throw it. but I bet with enough practice and with food on the line, wind up being a pretty effective thrower pretty quick. If this was your primary means of getting food, you're gonna learn how to employ this weapon in every and any environment. All right, that's the Schöningen spear. Appreciate you watching.